This week, I actually, was set a few steps back actually. My little girl was playing soccer and the ball hit her hand really hard and her thumb became dislocated. So off they rushed to the hospital and I met them there. And at the time, I didn't think much of what was going to happen, how my life was going to make a huge turn. They did a x-ray and we got to see the thumb was way out of place. And then she was such a trooper. She kept refusing any painkillers. It wasn't hurting her, I think, because everyone was such in shock. She didn't want to fall into that void and start feeling those emotions. So when it came time to put her thumb back into place, they offered her the gas, the laughing gas, and she giggled her head off. It was quite sweet to hear her doing that. But after they put it back in place, they did another x-ray to make certain that it was in place. And so for me, I was okay with it all happening at the time because I do believe that, emergencies are really important. Hospitals are really important when we come to those emergencies. I wouldn't say, you wake up with a bit of a sore neck and go rush off and have an x-ray done. If you're able to go see an osteo or chiropractor and they're able to feel what's going on and they say, oh, look, you need to do this, you need to have remedial massage. And then they find out the root cause is the chair that you're sitting on at work. I totally believe that alternative therapies are really good for those kind of pains. But the instant, arms breaking, thumbs being dislocated, accidents where it's an emergency, I truly believe that Western medicine has its purpose. However, it did play on me the next day, wondering the radiation exposure, how is this going to affect her? We're a family that don't need to take any painkillers or antibiotics. We haven't been sick to that point because we've changed our whole lifestyle. Not just my daughter and I, but also a cat and dog. Also, we've changed their lifestyle as well with the foods that they eat. Everything is raw and fresh and human grade. And for us as well, we hope ours is human grade as well. But the point I'm trying to get at is I started to become really concerned and worried about these 2 x-rays that she had. And then I started talking to a few of my friends about it. And I got in contact with Darren Haye, who has been on episode 6 where we spoke about meditation. And when we got talking the other day about the x-rays my daughter's had, he was able to explain it really well and help to ease my concern. So I'm going to be getting him on this evening and we're going to talk about radiation, and he would like to also touch on liver toxicity. So that's going to be really interesting because for me, a couple of years ago, I actually had a blockage in my liver duct and I took the natural path and did a gallbladder and liver flush, and I was able to remove 3 pea-sized bile stones during that flush, and the pain was gone. I felt so much better. I went back to see my iridologist and he noticed that, yep, your liver's looking fantastic. Now it's your kidneys, Lisa. I'm like, yep, no, of course. It's an organ and it has to be one of those. So I'm looking after myself so much better than ever before. But we've got to remember too that I've come from trauma and I'm healing that part of me as well. So it does take time. I've been speaking to a lot of my healthcare practitioners and they're saying that it takes years and years and years. If you're following that protocol, if you're not, then it's going to take a lifetime really, because once you are triggered by eating something that you're not meant to, inflammation starts up and then again, you're starting from the beginning again. So today we went to go see the doctor at the hospital for a checkup, got the cast taken off, now she's got a stent put on. And they had a feel and they thought, yep, the thumb is perfect. It's in the right spot. It's definitely bruised and swollen. That's expected, but it's healing really, really well. The doctor went and got the senior plastic surgeon to come and have a look, had a play, everything was fine. And in the end, they both said, let's go and have another x-ray. And so for me, I was like, no, do we have to? Like, I have some concerns about having another x-ray. Do we need to? Is it mandatory? And they said, no, it's for your peace of mind. And I said, you know what? My mind is peaceful. Is it okay? I'm going to decline. And they'll go, yeah, that's perfectly fine. As long as you're okay with it. We're comfortable. We're positive. Things are going into the right direction with her thumb. And if you are, as a mum, that's fine. We'll just do some hand therapy, which we've been booked in for that. And I will make an appointment to see my personal osteotherapist. He's absolutely awesome. And we'll get a second opinion or third opinion now, it looks like. We keep seeing all these different doctors, so it's wonderful that we're getting lots of different eyes. And today we're going to get an amazing person, Darren Haye, who's brilliant. I mean, his story is far out, actually. He had a motorbike accident and he was paralyzed, and he taught himself to walk again, and he used meditation as one of the modalities. And now he's a permaculturist, which is someone that lives off the land and does everything organic. And it's absolutely brilliant. He's out in New South Wales. Darren, I've known him now for over a decade. I met him through a personal development workshop where he came in and taught everyone what foods to be eating and at what times to help us get through this 7-day intense workshop that started really early in the morning. So we were all up at from 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and we'd be getting into bed by midnight, depending on where we all lived. And so we need to make sure we're eating the right foods for mental clarity. And so that's probably where it all started, when I started to understand about the plant-based lifestyle over a decade ago. So now I'm fully plant-based. I am whole food plant-based, aspiring to be outside of my house, but inside my home, I'm whole food plant-based, which means, you know, no processed foods. I make sure that I make everything myself as much as I can. And if I do purchase foods outside to bring into my home, I really research and find out where that food's come from and make sure it's local as well. I understand their philosophy, because if I can help my child and myself live a delicious life, at least let's start it from my pantry and my kitchen. So this week has been so much fun. I'm seeing the actual benefits and the opportunities in this challenge, because I'm sure a lot of us are thinking about it too, about x-rays and radiation, about 5G and microwaves. I don't own a microwave anymore. Once my microwave died, that was it. I'm a Airbnb host, and I've only had one guest ask me for a microwave, and they gave me a 4-star rating because I didn't have a microwave. They had to reheat their food on the stove. So out of all the other people that have stayed with me, none of them have worried. They've all thought it was a great idea for them to learn to cook with the oven and the stove, to make fresh foods rather than packaged foods and putting them in the microwave to defrost. So yeah, I'm reducing the carbon footprint as much as I can in my home, and as an Airbnb host, I want to be a point of difference as well. And my guests are absolutely loving it. If you've you might not have noticed, and you might notice today, the setting that I'm in. This is the bedroom that I host. I have purposely blocked out a couple of weeks of my room on Airbnb because I actually need the space. I also need the headspace as well. It's nice just to have my daughter and I, my cat and dog, in our own home. So we just need a couple of weeks just to get everything back in order, because she's a one-arm child now. She's actually my dishwasher unloader. She does that every day for her pocket money, and she hasn't done it at all for a week, and it's been really tricky because I've had to do everything. And yeah, you know, now I'm really, a real mum, aren't I now? Well, hold on a second. I take that back. Yeah, some mums will say, no, hold on a second. I get out my kids to help out. That's a real mum, getting their kids to help out. So, I'm joking. I'm going to go check on Darren Haye now and let him know that we're ready to rock and roll, looking at the time, and I'll go send him this link so he can jump on board and we can have this awesome discussion about radiation and liver toxicity. Welcome to Yummy Mummy Podcast, a health and well-being show inspiring you to bring out your best self and live a delicious life. So I made like a little introduction before, just talking about what's been happening for me. Little Miss ended up dislocating her thumb, and then I didn't think of it until the next day when she had 2 x-rays, and I was like, oh no, is that going to create problems? Do I have to now start looking at detoxifying her? And then after our little chat, it wasn't a long chat, just such a little one, it got me realizing, no, it's all good. I'm actually on the right track because we're whole food plant-based and we're just continually healing our body all the time from things that happened in the past. So anything that happens now, it's just going to be part of our healing journey.
Yep.
But today she did get, they offered us to do another x-ray to double check to make sure everything. But luckily I actually put the concern out and explained to the plastic surgeon that I didn't feel comfortable, and he was fine with it. He goes, it's more just for peace of mind for you. And I'm like, no. I'm like, don't worry, my mind is peaceful. I'm fine with it. And he goes, don't stress about it, because everything felt fine. So she's had 2 x-rays in her whole life. She's had, I think, 3 or 4. And she's 9. So should I be concerned, Darren?
Yeah. Should you be concerned? Well, I think if you're going to be doing a lot of x-rays, yes, you do need to be concerned. I mean, ionizing, high energy radiation is called ionizing radiation. So ionizing radiation particularly belongs to the class of radiations such as X-ray and gamma ray. And that means an ionizing radiation is radiation where the particles are such high energy that they will knock electrons out of the molecular structures of the atoms that they strike. And then you create compounds then which are oxidizing, because now they're looking for more electrons or other structures with which to bind and balance themselves out. So they become potentially mutagenic, particularly when it happens at the level of the DNA. So yes, it's something to be concerned of, but really it's something to be concerned of or about if, 1, you're unhealthy, 2, you're particularly vulnerable or enfeebled or weakened in some way. 2, if you're getting a lot of them. And 3, if your diet is otherwise poor.
Okay, so from what you said, my understanding is it will aid you. Each time you have this done, it's going to aid you. And we don't want to age. We want to stay youthful. And my daughter's compromised because she's sensitive to foods. So she would be in that higher risk factor compared to someone that is healthy, that doesn't have any intolerances or autoimmune diseases. So, okay.
X-rays obviously have their benefit. Sometimes before we're going to go into the body and do something, fix the body in some way, because we do need assistance. In some cases, the body needs assistance. So if we're going to go in there and with the best information, then X-rays can be called for, but they can be used excessively, and it's just another means of raising revenue for a surgery. a clinic, a practice. So yeah, we do have to be careful about just using them indiscriminately. So there needs to be a good reason. And you were right in just saying no to the next X-ray, which was, really, again, a means of raising revenue and not really necessary.
Yes. So for myself, I was in a car accident. I couldn't move, and the ambulance came and took me out, and I did need to have an X-ray. And then I found out years later it was minor whiplash, and I didn't need to have another X-ray because that one X-ray, my osteo was able to work it all out from the X-ray from 5 years earlier. And then so now I know I've got a degenerative disc in my neck, but it's all because I stick my head out. So I'm learning to put my chin in and shoulders back, and so lots of training. For you though, you've gone through it even harder because you had to relearn how to walk again. So how many X-rays did you have in that time when you were?
Well, not just X-rays, but CAT scans and all those things. So all of those use high energy, particles to receive an image, of what's going on inside the body. Those complete, I forget what they're called now, when you slide into that big cylinder.
Oh, when you
I think that is CAT scan. There's computer aided tomography and stuff like that.
This radiation, it doesn't just come from there. I mean, I know radiation's from microwaves as well. And where else are we living in?
That's another. We are. There's lots of radiations that we have to deal with, but microwave radiation is at the other end of the spectrum. Not to say that it's less harmful, but it's harmful in a different way. Whereas, it's harmful in a different way because we're operating at the very small, tiny wavelength, high energy end of the spectrum, which is above the visible light spectrum when you're talking about X-ray and gamma ray radiation. We're talking about X-ray radiation here.
Yeah.
So we're above the visible light spectrum, whereas microwave is below the visible light spectrum in terms of wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an ionizing radiation.
Okay.
In the sense that the particles that compose the radiation aren't high energy enough.
But if you're using it every day and you're standing in front of it while you're watching your food spin around?
Yeah, well, it can definitely have other effects. And, anything is potentially mutagenic. And this is the thing, it's what exposes someone or what predisposes someone to harm and someone else, to no harm. All things being, if the exposure was the same for two different people, why would one person receive harm and the other person not? So it all comes down to a person's ability or the body to defend itself from harm. So, and what enables a body to defend itself from harm? Well, we can say, we can pretty much sum it up to being, even if we say, okay, look, someone might be nourishing themselves because nourishment is important, and there are nourishing, things you can eat, for instance, which is what we're going to go into, that you can certainly have more of in order to protect yourself from this type of harm and damage. So you can certainly eat well, and someone can be eating well than the other person. So therefore, the person who's eating well is going to have a better protection in their body for the various reasons we'll go into soon.
Okay.
Okay, but what if they're both eating equally well? Well, then what it comes down to is really the vital or the vitality, the vital forces in the person who, or the vital forces in each of them. How do they compare? So the person who is stronger and with a greater vitality has a greater ability to defend themselves. You can just look at it purely on a physical level and you say, okay, here's a very strong human being, very fit, athletic, robust individual, and here's a slender, anemic, not very well-nourished individual, or just say not as well built.
Mm.
So obviously the well-built, robust, fleshed out individual is going to have a far easier time and greater success at defending themselves from physical harm,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they have a greater capacity to do work. So taking it from the directly physical and observable to the energetic. So someone who has a great store and reserve of life force energy, they have their body is able to do more work and more able to meet a threat. So the most vital person, and usually that equates to a body that is big and strong and robust, because there's just you can just see their vital reserves in their body have a greater depth.
Yeah. And
that's usually why they are stronger.
When we're talking about vital, robust, we're not talking about these bodybuilders that are drinking protein shakes and pumping iron. No. Generally, from what I've seen in that world, most of them aren't actually really healthy because they're relying on all the synthetic products and supplements.
Yep. And they usually have heart attacks in their 40s and early 50s,
Yes.
Sometimes even 30s.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I used to hear all the time. A family member of mine was a bodybuilder, so I heard it all the time, saw all the time. It was actually, back then I was quite shocked. I couldn't understand it, but now it's like, yeah, it's quite understandable with seeing what the foods that they're eating as well, the same kind of foods, and they're not having rainbow foods. You don't see lots of colour. You see lots of white in their lunch boxes. So... All right, so we need to become this robust, vital, healthy person to protect ourselves.
Yep. Well, in the end, we can't ask for more vital reserve than we've been given. It's kind of like a genetic thing, in the sense that we've kind of like been dealt the cards. But what we can do is economize on the vital expenditures of our bodies. So someone who is less robust and generally not as vital, not as strong on a level of their constitution. So we're talking about constitution here. They have to do more, or have to be more careful when it comes to conserving their energies than someone who is more robust and with a greater strength in their constitution, who can get away with a lot more because they just have the vital reserves to back them up. So okay. the difference is someone who has a great constitution and can overeat and and drink themselves silly, and then wake up the next day and go play a game of sport. Usually we can do that type of thing when we're younger. But then as you get older, you know, when you move out of your 20s into your 30s, you start to feel the effects of that. And then when you get into your 40s, you try something like that, and there's just no way you're going to do it, right? Unless you're a freak.
I've got one more year till I'm 40, so I'll come back to you with that one. But I did go out recently and I bounced back really quick. Yeah. That's like once out of maybe a year that I went out till really late. But I'm following a different kind of
Exactly. But try doing that, you know, 3 weekends in a row.
Oh yes, of course. I wouldn't be here right now. You'd see bags. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, whereas when we were in our early 20s, we were doing that weekends in a row. And you're still bouncing back, because it's like we've got this life reserve tank, you might say, and there's a timeline on it, and we can use it as fast as we like. We have, you know, free will, and the faster you deplete it, then the harder it gets in your later years to manage all the life processes. And when I say you, I'm talking about the subconscious and unconscious, you know, really the subconscious processes of your body's intelligence, because your ego isn't managing that at all. In fact, if it was handed over to our egos to manage it, you know, we wouldn't last very long.
We'd be out every night. Would be like we're in our 20s and just living it up every night, not thinking of the consequences.
Well, even when it comes down to the fact, I mean, and this is probably an old figure, and I'm sure they've updated these figures since then, but it just gives you an analogy that the conscious mind handled something like 8,000 bits of information per second, whereas the subconscious mind handles something like, was it 400 billion bits of information per second? You know, so it's like the amount of information handled by the subconscious through all the sensory data coming in from the external world, plus all the sensory data it's receiving from the internal operating mechanism, you know, to all the motor commands that it has to send out to the entire physiology of the body to keep smooth and adequate and optimum functioning happening. Like, our conscious mind has no way to deal with that amount of information. So we deal with very select information. So if the conscious mind, you know, the seat of the ego, had to deal with that information, you simply wouldn't be capable. You'd be inept. So you'd have tissue complexes failing because you just simply weren't being able to make decisions fast enough and even get to those commands, you know, before something else needed to take place. It's just not possible. So we literally collapse into a puddle, or, you know, flesh bag of
you're envisioning this. You can see it.
A flesh bag of non-functioning. If we had to actually control the physiological processes of our body themselves, fortunately we don't have to, because there is an intelligence within us called life, which sees to all of that. And so life is always managing the most optimum outputs for its given resources at any point in time. And those resources are not only the nutritional elements that we provide to the physiology of our body, which contain different energy, so to speak, different nutrients, different packages of information for our body to function optimally. But it's that resource is also the life force itself, because you can see the difference in someone who is 19 or 20 and 25, or even someone in their prime, in their mid to late 30s, who have fully come into their body and embodied themselves. You can see how much life resource is available in them as to someone who is now 80 years of age, or as to someone who has just died. Right? They have no vital resource left. They're gone. Right? Nothing is happening. So to the degree that we have that resource, our body or life within us, because life is the responder, to the degree that we have life energy, that vitality, we are able to respond to outside threats, whether it's incoming high energy radiation, whether it's poisoning, from, some type of environmental threat or some introduced toxin into our body. The degree of meeting that threat is firstly determined by how strong and vital our life forces are.
Mm.
And that's always it. And because it's we like to, because we're going to go talk about nutrition in a second, and we like to think that, if I just eat this and I just eat that and I do this, then I'm going to be okay. And it's true that to a large degree we will, but it doesn't absolve us of our responsibility to behave or act appropriately, and responsibly with the life force that we've been given. You can't violate the laws of life and then expect to be able to reach out and take something, whether it's a high quality piece of food or a pharmaceutical pill, particularly a pharmaceutical pill, because it's got no life to give, whereas the high quality food is going to have at least some degree of prana, or life energy available in it to impart to you.
Yeah.
As part of its nourishment.
Prana, just for those listeners that don't know, prana just means life force. It's prana is a Sanskrit word. Is that correct from memory?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it just means life force, or it can mean spirit. Chi is another one. Chi, energy.
Prana and chi are probably equivalent, and they really kind of, like, the way I see it, speak to the light, the living light available in the foods that we eat. And when we think about the fact that all life actually comes to us from the sun first, in the form of photonic energy, electromagnetic radiation, particularly in the visible spectrum. I mean, there's the high energy, because X-rays and gamma rays are part of that. And then below that you have the infrared and the microwaves. They're all part of the electromagnetic spectrum of energy emitted by the sun. But the sun is capturing that electromagnetic radiation in the chloroplasts of plants, which is using that energy to split carbon dioxide, to take the carbon, to uptake water, to uptake minerals, to infuse those minerals with light energy. And light is information. When you think about what runs through the fiber optic cables underneath the city, connecting all these homes, what's running through those fiber optic cables? Well, it's light. That's why they're called fiber optics. It's light carries information. So this information, which is coming from this our sun, and is imbued into our plants. The plants uptake this information. So it's energy and it's information. And it puts that into the food, and we then eat that food and we take it into our bodies, and it's distributed then to our cells, into our cells. So we take that energy and that information so that our cells may function optimally in this environment. So that, of the foods that we eat, which are hopefully localized foods or local foods, because the local foods have the localized incidental radiations, impacting them from our particular place in space and time on this planet. And so local foods have the information that you need to respond to environmental threats or conditions, and therefore maintain homeostasis or equilibrium.
With local foods, can you clarify what is local food?
Foods grown.
How many kilometre radius is local?
Okay, foods grown in pretty much the same climate zone that you're in.
So if I'm in Melbourne, I should be eating foods in Victoria, let's say. That would be local to me.
Yeah. So Melbourne's it's a warm temperate to Mediterranean type climate, although a bit colder than Perth is on the other side, because Perth is definitely a Mediterranean climate, and Melbourne's quite similar, but it tends to be a bit cooler and more moving towards the marine type spectrum of climate. So Victoria, yeah. So eating locally is Victoria, because as soon as you go too far into New South Wales, you start moving into the subtropics.
So then what happens
Once
with
you go above Sydney?
certain foods when, you know, you're craving a pineapple, but it's not grown in my local farms? Do I just miss out on pineapple, or do I have to fly over to Queensland?
Well, you could ask yourself why you think you're craving pineapple, for starters. And
Maybe because it's a Friday night and it's pizza night and I like pineapple on pizza. It's a memory that I've created that I want back.
So, well, I'm glad that you qualified that, because in that sense, you're not actually eating really pineapple. What you're eating is some tinned product that quite possibly was tinned with a sugar syrup as well. And so
I make it myself, Darren. I go get the pineapple from the shop. But yes, it's come from Queensland and to the grocery store. So yeah.
And then you've cooked it. So you've also modified it too.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas if you just ate the pineapple straight, off the plant, your body, through the alliesthetic taste sense, which is the body's ability to sense the food that it's eating, and through sight, does it look good? Through smell, does it taste good? Through smell, does it smell good? Does it look good, smell good, and then does it taste good? And if it tastes good, then you should be eating it. And as you eat it, the taste in your mouth will change at the point which your body is saying, sorry, I've had enough. Not only will the taste change, but the mouthfeel will change. And usually unless it's a sun-ripened organic pineapple, you'll find it's going to cut your tongue and gums.
Yeah, we had a chat about this. You had something up once, and I even put something up, and I noticed a huge difference in organic pineapple compared to non-organic. Yeah, because my daughter couldn't eat, and she couldn't even eat kiwis either until I worked that out. So we tried it out one day and went organic, and sure enough, from what I was thinking, it's the middle part. So I was always removing the middle part to be able to eat, because I could eat as much as I wanted when I wasn't eating the middle part. But non-organic and eating the middle part, my mouth was fine. But non-organic, I just can't do it. Yeah, so I just don't go there.
Yeah, and even then, growing it yourself, you'll see a huge difference again, because even then, organic is a it's a phenomenal step above conventional grown produce, but still it's not as good as it could be. And sometimes they pick things too early.
Yeah.
And so,
even for organic, you're saying?
Yeah, even for organic. Yeah.
Yeah, growing your own pineapple takes years though, doesn't it?
Takes about 18 months.
Yeah. And my Melbourne weather won't cut it. I won't be able to do it.
It's worth the wait. You'd have to grow it in greenhouses.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, glass houses, I mean. You have to grow it in a glass house.
Yeah, I think for now I might just lay off the pineapple craving. I don't crave pineapple. It's the memory. It is. It's just Friday night, pizza night. I just still have it stuck in my head. But we have changed it up a little bit, and we're becoming more like Friday night is baked potato night. It's not this, doesn't have the same ring to it, but we're creating new memories for our movie nights. So yeah, growing them yourself, which I have started doing that a few years now, and totally can taste the difference in foods. And a lot of people are doing it. They're getting right into it. And for those that have never done it, I always say start with a herb garden. Start growing herbs, because that's much easier than trying to grow a fruit or a vegetable. And yeah, if you kill a herb plant, like a lot of people aren't green thumbs, it's not as heartbreaking as if one of your big trees starts to look funny and you don't know what you're doing.
Herbs and greens.
Herbs and greens, greens.
About the same thing, but we traditionally think of herbs like parsley and rosemary and thyme and those types of things. But in essence, any green leafy is a herb, really. It's herbaceous.
They grow crazy. And my silver beets just gone crazy at the moment again. And I didn't even plant them. They just what do you call it when they redo it themselves? I'm so...
They self-sowed.
They self-sowed. They did. And they taste delicious. Yeah. Yeah, you can tell I'm a green thumb, but I don't know the words.
Yeah, it's that. Well, that's their season, silver beet season.
Yum, great. So I'm going to get to that question. So what should we be eating then? So we're looking at the nutrition part. What?
Yep.
Can you give us a rundown of what foods we should be concentrating on so we can create a strong, healthy body?
Sure. I mean, there are actually lots of studies done on mitigating the effects of ionizing radiation. And so I've made some notes on some of those foods.
Okay, cool, thanks.
But I think in the end, what it comes down to, again, is I think many of the foods, they have an ability to increase one of our body's master antioxidants, and that's glutathione. So most people probably would have heard of glutathione. And so if you can optimize your body's production of glutathione, you're going to do a lot to protect your DNA.
Okay.
Your mitochondrial DNA and otherwise your cellular DNA and the chromosomes, that the DNA is in, to better defend those structures from damage. So glutathione and increasing glutathione is one way. And I mean, you can even go out and get a glutathione supplement. However, I'm reluctant to recommend those types of supplements.
Are they supplements for people that have multiple sclerosis, like MS? Because when you said mitochondria, it just made my mind go to a friend that actually has MS, and she's always talking about the mitochondria being damaged, and she's on lots of supplements.
Yeah.
I wonder if that...
Possibly. I mean, anything. I mean, the mitochondria are most prevalent in the nervous system, particularly the brain and the heart. I mean, the heart's another brain in itself. It's a different type of nervous system structure, and it has a different purpose. The heart sees broad spectrum. The brain sees, specifically, the brain appreciates detail, whereas the heart appreciates feeling. So the heart receives information in a different way than the brain does. And but they both use a tremendous amount of energy. And so
the gut as well. The gut is the second brain. Heart is the third brain. Yeah, there's three brains. I've been learning this lately. And the heart one was quite new to me, that I've just recently researched to understand. Yeah.
But in particular, what I was saying with the supplements with glutathione is being careful. Like I always say to be careful using a supplement for something which the body can make and produce itself. So we can't make and produce vitamin C. That's one of those, that gene pathway in our body is deactivated. It's turned off for whatever reason. We don't produce vitamin C. So we have to have vitamin C in our diet.
Mm-hmm.
And we need lots of it. We need more than what the authorities are telling us.
Okay.
Authorities say we need 90 to 110 milligrams a day. Whereas in reality, you're looking at, honestly, 1,000 milligrams is a minimum, but you're looking somewhere between 2,000 to 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day.
Mm.
And we would be living far, far healthier. So we should actually be trying to grow our food to have maximum availability of vitamin C in it.
So the foods that are quite high in vitamin C?
The foods that are high in vitamin C, well, they're fresh foods for starters. So if you're a meat eater, they're going to be generally the organ meats and the freshest cuts of meat, because they're freshest, and it's the organs which are actually dealing with the vegetable matter that the creature has eaten, right? But if you're not a meat eater, then it's fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the creature that has eaten the fruits and vegetables, to get that vitamin C.
But when you say fresh, how fresh? Like, how soon should you, as a meat eater, how soon should you be accessing this fresh meat and serving it up?
Well, almost immediately, ideally. Straight up.
So,
because you're losing it.
It doesn't happen very often. Majority of people are going to the butcher.
Not even with our fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Because they're transported thousands of kilometers, if not from overseas, and they're picked unripe. And they've been already highly depleted with pesticides.
So we all need to have a farm. We all need to live off the land if we want to make sure that we're having an abundant amount of vitamins and minerals in our system straight away. But people listening and go, I'm not going to do that. It's an idea. I'd love that.
Yep.
They got to think of ways to do it while they're living in the suburban homes or in the city life.
So even just eating, as high quality fresh fruit and vegetable as possible, organic, you're going to be getting more nutrients in than eating processed food.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think taking a vitamin C supplement is certainly feasible. A liposomal vitamin C supplement is even better because of its ability to enter your cellular matrix. But when it comes to glutathione, because as I was saying previously, it's glutathione which seems to be the compound which is most protective in these cases, particularly with these ionizing radiations. Vitamin C replenishes glutathione.
Okay.
Our body naturally produces glutathione from several compounds, one of which is a sulfur-based amino acid called cysteine. So cysteine-rich foods will help contribute to the production of glutathione, as well as vitamin C-rich foods. So your vitamin C-rich foods are dark leafy greens, broccoli, things like that. Your bell peppers, like capsicum, quite rich. Onions, your citrus, of course, and kiwi fruit. Many of those, many fruits, in fact, fruits in general are high in vitamin C if they've been grown properly and have properly sun ripened and eaten fresh, and some more so than others.
So what's the difference between eating and juicing then?
Well, with juices, you tend to get in more nutrient, but also too, you could overload the body with sugar too quickly.
But it's good sugar though. It's
yes,
not,
it is.
It's fructose.
It is good sugar. Correct. But even some people can find themselves less tolerant of fructose. So you can still overload the body to some degree. Some people have a condition, too much fructose can still cause harm.
Yeah.
because we're never meant to juice. Ultimately, juice is a convenience that we've happened upon, an easy way to get in that type of food, and it takes the digestion, the hardest part of the digestion out of it. So in that sense, people think that they're giving their body a rest, and they probably are. But like anything, you just got to be smart with its use. You've got to listen to your body. If you're listening to your body, yeah, if you're listening to your body's going to tell you if you're doing something wrong. But we habitually ignore it, and we just don't pay attention to it. And because our will, the egoic seat of our mind is too busy trying to direct things, instead of just paying attention. So, I'm an advocate of juicing in certain instances, but you can't beat the whole food, because as soon as you eat the whole food, there is a relationship between you eating it and chewing it and mixing your own saliva with it and then going into, your the enzymes secreted by your salivary glands, and going into your stomach pre-prepared like that interface that you have with your food, it digests differently, and you have the alliesthetic taste sense occurring. Whereas if you juice something and you concentrate it and you drink it down, you don't have the same sense working. You've modified the food, and you've artificially concentrated it. You've changed the way it's normally ingested, and you've possibly mixed it with several other things.
Oh, yes.
And so it doesn't happen in nature. We tend to forget that we are actually natural animals, firstly. And we have taken on technology and learned technology because we're lazy, ultimately, because it's a convenience, and so we do things with technology and continuously take us more, further away from what is natural. And in doing so, we usually violate the law of life in some way.
It takes us away, but then illnesses come to the surface and brings us back to start thinking about what are we going to do to heal our bodies, to help it go back to being vital and healthy. And I'm seeing a lot more people waking up and wanting to go back the old school way. And when we spoke the other day, you brought up liver toxicity when it came to radiation. And what was the link with that?
Well, there may be some, there are certain radiations that might harm the liver. And there are certainly, you have hepatoprotective compounds and radioprotective compounds. And hepatoprotective compounds, hepato from hepar, which means liver. Those liver protective compounds are usually the same compounds that allows the liver to detox and heal.
Okay.
So we'll talk about some of those too.
Okay.
But let's start with glutathione.
Okay.
So, and as I was saying, because the body produces glutathione itself, you can actually buy liposomal glutathione. But what you're doing when you take something like that is if you do that for your body, because your body, life adheres to the law of the conservation of energy, which gives us the law of necessitous use. So life will do nothing which is superfluous, because it won't waste energy. It can't waste energy, because to waste life energy is to hasten death, which is everything that life is trying to avoid. Life operates counter to death. It is the counter current. right, to death, to the death urge. We have the life urge. And so in order to perpetuate life, this intelligent energy will conserve its use, its own use, such that it will only, every single action that it takes is a necessary action. And the choice made by life, remember the subconscious living processes of our body deals with hundreds of billions of bits of information a second, whereas our conscious mind only deals with several thousand. You know, so at every single moment of time, it's assessing all this information and choosing the most efficacious pathway in order to achieve a certain outcome, because it is privy to far more information than our conscious mind is. And so it chooses the most efficacious, the most effective, the most energy efficient pathway in order to get a task done the first time, every time.
Okay.
And it only does what is necessary, right? Because otherwise, all it does is hasten the depletion and the exhaustion of its own energies. And at that point, you expire. You know, the body expires. The consciousness, as we are, leaves the body. Right? The body kicks it out.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have the energy anymore to maintain that interface, and so boom, off we go. So life obeys the law of necessitous use. So when we take a glutathione supplement, rather than the body making it itself, it will scavenge that glutathione from the bloodstream, you know, because it's gone into our digestive tract and it's seeped through and it's gone into the bloodstream. So it'll try and use that, because why make it itself if that's what it has? But you'll find, as we get cleverer and cleverer, we discover actually that life prepared compounds are actually different to our synthesized compounds.
Yes.
And so even our synthesized compounds can't do exactly the same things to the same degree that our own prepared, you know, life prepared compounds can. And as our body also too tries to use these synthesized compounds, it downregulates its own production. And you know, you want to be careful about something like that, because you know, you need that glutathione. And are you always going to take the glutathione supplementation? What happens when you stop taking it? All of a sudden, you have this deficiency that your body now has to try and catch up with again. Yep. Now, as I said, a fit, strong body, a body that's running efficiently, won't have a problem with that transition, but someone else might. And you never know what's going to happen. Consciousness is a very interesting, deep, broad factor in us. You know, there's an infinite array of combinations and permutations of how consciousness can express itself, and the problems that can go wrong in the human body, which is an expression of consciousness. So, you know, if you were to walk around on a crutch all the time, just because for the hell of it, because you thought, oh, I'll take this because I want to help my legs. You know, just like someone might take a glutathione supplement because they want to help their body. You know, well, sure, you're going to be helping your legs. Your legs are going to get nice and rest, but they're also going to grow weaker.
Right.
Because you need a certain life functions by meeting a need. And so you have this environmental need, and you have this outer stimulus, and you have this inner will to meet. Without the outer stimulus to call out your will, there's just a continual, receding or withdrawing. And so there's a certain amount of stimulus which is needed to call life out and to grow and evolve. And that's what like physical training does. That's what exercise does. It calls life energy out into our limbs. Otherwise, our limbs grow weak. So in the same sense that you want to allow life to meet external stimuli and needs, because that's how it grows naturally stronger. You don't want to clobber it with too much external threat, because a person can withstand that to the degree that they have their vital reserves. So too much depletes the vital reserves. So you want just enough. You want just enough. Too little, and the life force withdraws because it's not going to spend any more energy than it has to, because it operates according to a law of necessitous use. So we have to find that balance, and that's why
would be better with getting it from our foods rather than taking a synthetic product.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because it's also it's giving a reason for life within us to improve our ability to extract those nutrients, improve our ability to sense what foods have the nutrients that we need. So we start to actually improve our natural connection to the real world around us.
Yeah. So we do this with our vitamin C, and we do this with our, I can't pronounce that, glutathione. Glutathione.
Yeah.
We do with everything. Yeah. Everything.
Well, you see, vitamin C we can't make, so you got to get it from your diet.
But so, then how do you know if you're having too much vitamin C?
Well, it's water soluble, and so if you're having too much, you'll just pee it out.
Okay. That just makes it easier for me to think about vitamin C. I want to make my life easier, Darren, and teach people a little easier life when it comes to making certain, keeping the balance with the foods.
Yeah. I mean, I recommend a vitamin C supplement only because 110 milligrams a day is nowhere near enough. So even if you're taking 1,000 milligrams, but it's kind of like it's a supplement that if you're going to take something like that, you want to do it regularly. You want to keep up with it, because if you take high dose vitamin C, as you might do if you're well, as soon as you come off it, you'll feel that effects. You'll feel those effects.
I'm going to look into that, Darren, because I'm not a supplement person. But since you're saying that, I'm going to look into it more, because I just don't feel, my heart doesn't feel like I could do that. I could take something.
And liposomal vitamin C is the one you want to take if you're going to take something. Other than that, it's sodium ascorbate, which is an alkaline version of vitamin C. And not the junk lollies, sugar flavored pills you get in, your cheap stuff.
Yeah.
So, because vitamin C helps replenish glutathione, as glutathione is oxidized in order to reduce it. Vitamin C is a reducing compound. Vitamin C comes along and helps the body replenish glutathione stores. So again, diet rich in fresh fruits and vegetables helps replenish glutathione. And then there are foods which help the body produce glutathione. And because glutathione is a sulfur-based compound, foods which are rich in sulfur, the sulfur-based foods are going to help produce it.
And what kind of foods are those?
Well, meats have the sulfur-containing amino acids, if you happen to be a meat eater, or eggs or anything like that. But the alliums, so onions, garlics, and those types of foods, and the brassicas.
Yeah.
So your brassicas, brassicas are so your broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages, and all that type of stuff. Yep. So they're sulfur-rich foods. All right. So they are going to provide the sulfur amino acid cysteine, which of which glutathione is made. Your your vitamin C foods we've already mentioned,
Yep.
and your selenium-rich foods. So
Okay.
selenium is necessary to produce glutathione.
And those foods are?
Well, I've got a list here. So animal products are rich in selenium, organ meats, cottage cheese, brown rice, Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are one of the richest sources of selenium that we know of.
Yeah.
So if you soak your Brazil nuts
Yeah.
prior to eating.
Make them. Yeah. Yep.
Then there are glutathione-rich foods in and of themselves, right? So that's spinach, avocados, asparagus, and okra.
Yeah.
Glutathione-rich foods. They themselves have a lot of glutathione, and I pretty much eat avocados every day.
Yeah, same. Okra is something that people have been asking me what to do with it because they're just starting to see it at their grocery store. And yeah, I'm trying to work out a recipe for that because I've not eaten it raw.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can eat it raw. You can lightly pan fry it.
Yeah, yeah, I've done it in stews and things like that.
Yeah, and stir fry it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whey protein is rich in cysteine, and there's lots of things you can do with whey protein. The milk thistle helps replenish glutathione.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Silybum marianum, whatever the name of the milk thistle is.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a liver protective compound and a liver detoxifying compound, right? The milk thistle. Turmeric, in particular, curcumin helps to replenish glutathione. And that's also another liver protective compound and detoxifying compound. Then you want to get enough sleep because it's when we get enough sleep, balanced sleep, that our body produces the glutathione. And so our sleep is kind of like when we're awake, we're in a greater oxidative state. Mm-hmm. And when we go into deep sleep, then our body starts to shut down. We're now in a reducing state where our body is able to replenish compounds like glutathione, with the powerful melatonin and with, vitamin C from our diet. Mm-hmm. And we are able to rejuvenate to a certain degree with proper sleep. So then
So with proper sleep, a really good indication to know if you are sleeping well enough is to have a feel of your lips. And if they're quite dry and cracked, bet your bottom dollar you're not having proper sleep or going to bed soon enough or early enough. As a beauty therapist for 15 years now, at the beginning I used to tackle it thinking they're not hydrated. But after all the years and just meeting so many different people coming to me, all the time, I ask them, what time do you go to sleep? Have you had enough sleep? And yeah, just with my own research, it comes down to that. So, because people do ask me when I tell them, oh, you got to get a good night's sleep. They go, but how do I know I'm actually getting a good night's sleep? And that's a really good indication is to feel the lips to know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the number one factor that we have to rejuvenate ourselves. Mm-hmm. How do we know that? Because we need 8 hours of it. We need 8 hours of sleep really to be well and healthy. And some people need a little bit more. Some people can get away with a little bit less.
Yeah, we've got it in us. We've got our body clock. We've got our circadian rhythms. And if we didn't have time, because time doesn't exist, it's, man-made. But, if the sun goes down and we have our dinner and we go to bed and sleep, majority of us would sleep 8 hours.
Yep.
Give or take a couple of hours, depending, like you said, some people can sleep less or need more. Yeah, so science isn't wrong when they say we need 8 hours sleep.
No.
There's enough tests out there, experiments and research out there to tell us. So it's important. But the time we go to bed is really important too, Darren, I think.
Yep. Needs to be regular, a nice routine.
Yep.
Obviously, making sure you get to bed soon enough because when you have to get up. And so you got to make sure you get to bed, early enough that you get that sleep.
time in the morning, so you're not rushing yourself, because then that adds stress
Yeah.
on all our organs. Okay,
Yeah.
so sleep, important.
And exercise. Exercise stimulates the production of glutathione. But again, it's a moderate exercise. It's a balanced exercise. You're not like pushing yourself to extremes. It's okay maybe to do that every now and then, but especially as your vital forces become depleted, it's not something that you want to do too much. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule, but you know, you want to conserve your energy. And marathon runners are often sick.
Yeah, I'm thinking all the marathon runners that I know, and they've been quite ill lately in this winter weather.
They run themselves down,
Yeah. So when you said at the start, like, I've been thinking about myself, because when it comes to exercise, I know my limit. And I know people have always tried to push me to say, oh, you can do more, but I know my limit. I like to walk, and I like to ride my bike, I like to swim, but I'm not a bodybuilding kind of person. I wouldn't go and do weights at the gym. It's not for me. I've tried it and it's not for me, and I've learnt now. And you're saying at the start, in other words, you're saying everyone's different and we all have our limits, and we've got to really listen to ourselves and know what our limits are. So when it comes to exercise, find whatever exercise it is that works for you, and do really well at that.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
And then how much a day of exercise? So we're looking at...
Well, again, it's going to depend on the individual.
Yeah.
Some people, I mean, you should be active to some degree every day. But for me, like I'm living on a farm, the Permaculture Research Institute of Australia, and every day I'm doing kilometers just walking around, just every day. And that's not even taking into account other things that I might have to do. Like, today we're moving big fencing panels. And so they're quite heavy. So lifting up and carrying fencing panels and stuff like that. So, and some days, you might be turning compost. If you've got several compost piles to turn that are a cubic meter or more, with shovels and garden forks and stuff like that. So that's exercise, and then you're walking up and down hills or whatever.
Yeah.
So that is activity that most people just don't get. So then people have to program activity. So whether it's yoga or whether it's a brisk walk or jog or something in the gym or playing some type of sport, hopefully you're getting at least 20 minutes of quality activity a day, at least 20 minutes.
Yeah, because like for me, being a home mum, driving my daughter to school and back, and being a blogger and podcaster, I wasn't getting much exercise. I had to put it in my schedule to make certain that I went out for a nature walk so I could reconnect with the earth, because I was always in front of my laptop. And turning the compost bin is hard for me. Like when you're talking about compost, I wouldn't survive on your farm. I just spin my compost around every day a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's enough farm work today. However, my car is not working at the moment. It's been about a week, and I've been doing about 10,000 steps a day because we're taking public transport. And I'm doing really good. At the start, I puffed out. I'm getting better and better, Darren. So there is hope for us single mums. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's an example of calling out the life force to meet an external or environmental stimulus.
I did it to myself. I know I did this on purpose. I made certain that my car wasn't going to work because I knew that I needed to get healthy. So, yeah. And I haven't even put my car in to get fixed yet. I'm waiting for a part, but I'm thinking, no, I think I'd like to do this for a couple more weeks because I'm loving it. I'm happier as well. And state is so much better for it.
Yeah, because it changes the quality of the neurotransmitters emitted by your microbiome. Exercise.
It's great. It's good for you. You're listening, people.
So,
it's great for you.
So endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, all these types of things you are getting more of. And they're your well-being, neurotransmitters.
So what else is on your list there that we should be doing after exercise?
Decreasing alcohol.
Okay, I'm happy with, I don't drink anymore, but
Yeah.
then when we talk about, I mean, a lot of people do ask me, they go, "Oh, but why not a red wine? You know, there's nothing wrong with it. What if it's organic, biodynamic, or if it's
Well,
no
look,
sulfurs?" And
Australia is a drinking culture. We've been raised in it. We've been conditioned to it. And alcohol's an easy drug to get. It's cheap and it's socially acceptable. Everyone, or most everyone, does it. And it leaves its effects, at least the worst or the most notable conscious altering effects, leave your field of awareness relatively quickly, you know. But you know, and I've certainly enjoyed having a drink, you know, with friends or whatever, you know, just the same as everybody else. And you know, had way too much of the stuff at various times. And you know, we have to ask ourselves why alcohol has those effects. And you know, what are we looking for when we drink alcohol? Well, it gives us courage. Usually, it releases inhibitions and it frees us from our neuroses, so that we can have moments of relative freedom, which is blissful.
mm,
You know, until those same deep-seated emotional mechanisms, whatever they are, you know, reassert themselves.
oh,
You know,
it's great for single moms, single parents, but mums more so. They're well known. They're well known for like having a glass of wine or an alcoholic drink at the end of the night when the kids go to bed. I haven't done that for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And I look back now and I was very much, I used to love drinking wine at dinner. I was like, I'd be all like happy, washing dishes and smiling and laughing. And at the start, when I stopped drinking, I look back now and go, oh my goodness, how did I get through those nights of trying to put my daughter to bed when she's not listening to me? And now I've gotten through it. I'm, oh, how do I put it into words? Like we were saying before, I'm actually using my life force to deal with life rather
yeah,
than masking it and using alcohol to, um, yeah, to help me through it. Yeah, it's like, it is a drug. Like you said, it's a drug. Yeah. So,
yeah, you're being present.
yeah, but being present is confronting, Darren.
Of course, that's why we drink alcohol. It's one of those things that we do so that we don't have to be present.
It's
It's
hard
a
work sometimes. I feel like I just want to like, because I
yeah,
will throw in the towel sometimes. I,
yeah,
you know, just go, oh, I can't do this. And I have a whole cabinet full of alcohol sitting there. I haven't even thought about going there ever when I'm going through those times of, oh my God, moments. Which is good. That means like my brain is functioning really well because I'm not falling into the void. But still, it's hard work.
yeah. I mean, we usually have it to avoid being present in some way. So, you know, we numb out by having something like that. But it's a protoplasmic poison. It's a sterilizing agent. It
Okay.
kills life, and it's a testament to the resistive powers of life in our body. That
It's killing my keeping me single longer. It's killing my dating life as well. So just so you're aware.
some people might argue the opposite. You know, they need alcohol to have a dating life, but it's like but I agree with you. You know, it's kind of like, I don't think it's. I mean, as fun as it is, and as fun as it can be, it's a consciousness altering substance that if you actually are looking at developing consciousness, you know, and we're here on this earth to evolve.
Yeah.
On this earth
What I
plane.
was
If you
trying to
actually,
What I was trying to say before is not drinking is killing my dating life.
oh right,
Yeah.
that's what you were saying.
No one wants to date me because I don't drink.
Well, you're not putting the right parameters in.
I know. Oh, but yeah. So, but what about?
It's conscious. It's. I was going to say it's consciousness altering, and if you're wanting to raise consciousness, honestly, alcohol and the raising of consciousness do not go hand in hand.
Mm.
Other than the fact that by drinking it, you'll probably make mistakes that you're going to learn from and not want to do again.
So
In
it's
that
a
sense,
learning tool
you
as
learn.
well. Then, see, there's a
Well,
benefit.
everything is.
Yeah.
Everything is. Yeah.
What about
But
putting
it depletes
alcohol?
the body. It depletes the body of vitamin C, and then it helps. Sorry, it hinders your production of glutathione. In fact, the glutathione and the vitamin C that you are taking in, and the glutathione that you are producing, is going to defend yourself against the harmful effects of alcohol and neutralize the alcohol. So if you're wanting to actually defend your chromosomes and your DNA with glutathione and vitamin C, then by drinking alcohol, you're actually thwarting your body's attempt to do that, because your body has to deal with the threat of the alcohol. In fact, your body, because alcohol is so poisonous, your body pretty much stops doing everything else in order to deal with the threat of alcohol, you know. So if you're wanting to protect your body, you know, the telomeres on the end of your chromosomes and the DNA, and heal all that yourself, well, you can't be drinking alcohol, because your valuable vitamin C and glutathione is just being, you know, depleted by it.
I like hearing that. What about alcohol on our body? If I was to use vodka with bicarb soda, that's what I use sometimes to get rid of the chlorine off my body when I go swimming.
Right. I just don't swim in chlorine.
Oh, yeah, but I need to move. You're making me want to leave Melbourne.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about
it's a
chlorine.
problem.
Explain about chlorine. Is that going to affect me? Is that going to put a hindrance on my vitamin C and?
Oh yeah, all of that. But you know, it's like, I mean, once I haven't swum in a chlorinated pool for I don't know how long, because once you get out of the pool, particularly if it's a heated pool, you'll smell chlorine coming out of your pores for days.
Oh, but not if you use vodka, distilled vodka with bicarb soda all over your body and your hair, rinse yourself off, the smell's gone. But from what I've learned, that so the vodka opens up the pores so the bicarb can clean, but it evaporates before the skin absorbs it. That's what I've learnt. But are you going to tell me something different?
You don't feel tipsy after you've smeared your body with vodka?
No, I was thinking that was going to happen because I haven't had it for so long, and no, it didn't happen. I found that to be
Well, I mean, your skin is one of your major detoxing organs. So you detox through your skin.
Yeah.
But you also, you will receive nourishment through your skin. So I think you want to be careful what you put on your skin. I mean, and chlorine is one of those things. It's like you want organic chloride from your foods. You don't want inorganic chlorine from pools or from your municipal water system. I mean, chlorine does attack the thymus gland. It does weaken and degenerate the thymus gland here, which is your immune system, master gland for immune system modulation, really. Yeah, among other things, but
okay, all right. I'm going to rethink about this whole chlorine.
I swim in oceans, and I swim in natural water courses, and other than that, when I was in Perth, because I'm in rainwater now. So, but when I was in Perth, I had a double filter on my shower. I had one in the shower head and one at the wall to take the chlorine out, and that was changed every 6 months. Take the chlorine and fluoride out.
Yeah. Okay, so have you gone through your list? Is there?
Well, that's for glutathione, but we can talk about some radioprotective nutrients.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the time. I'm definitely going to have to make this podcast a 2-part series.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can probably wrap it up in 10 minutes.
Alrighty, let's do that. Yeah. I'll still probably make it a 2-part series because we can keep it as like a 35-minute 2-part series.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So, radioprotective nutrients interrupt oxidant processes. So that's what the ionizing radiations do, is they create oxidants, and that's what antioxidants do. They come in and diffuse the oxidation process by diffusing or neutralizing the oxidants. So polyphenols. Polyphenols can modify gene expression that protects the tissues from ionizing radiation, such as resveratrol. So resveratrol is what we get in grapes in particular, and that's what we get from the red wine. So that's radioprotective. It's also anti-tumor. It protects the chromosomes. It can prevent radiation toxicity to the liver and the small intestines.
Okay. Grapes. What kind of grapes? Which one? Red grapes? Green grapes?
Yeah, red grapes, I think. Red grapes.
And so red grapes they're not an all year round grape. From memory, they come out. Are they an all year?
No. That's definitely a summer crop.
Summer, yes, because at the moment I'm seeing lots of green. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Quercetin, which you get from onions, and there are other foods which have quercetin, but off the top of my head, I don't remember what they are. But quercetin protects lipids and proteins in chromosomes and mitochondrial DNA.
Yep.
And it mitigates changes in the white blood cells following radiation exposure.
Cool.
Another one is epigallocatechin gallate, so EGCG, which most people have heard as green tea extract.
Okay. I don't like to drink caffeine though.
No, neither do I.
So then would you have a green tea extract?
Well, you could try a green tea extract. So this protects against whole body radiation, blocks lipid oxidation, prolongs lifespan, protects rapidly reproducing cells. So particularly those cells in the intestine and hair follicles from radiation therapy damage. So if you're going to have radiation therapy for some reason, then green tea extract can help protect those tissues.
Okay.
Particularly people who are undergoing cancer treatment, radiation therapy with cancer treatment.
That's very interesting. Okay.
There's the genistein or genistein, which is an isoflavone in soybeans. Right. So that protects from radiation-induced lipid peroxidation, which disrupts cell membranes. It also stimulates red blood cells and white blood cell production after radiotherapy. I suppose the only thing I can say with soybeans is that if you're going to eat soy, then I think I would be eating fermented soy only, and only organic fermented soy.
Can you explain to us why? I know why, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Well, because soy itself, soy was only ever eaten really in its country of origin when it was fermented. Very little of it was eaten unfermented, but it was pretty much always eaten fermented because there are a lot of anti-nutrients in it. And so in order to neutralize those anti-nutrients and make it more beneficial for your body or less harmful was to ferment it.
Mm.
And so it was imported into the USA anyway as for use in the textile industry. So actually to make automobile paint and fabrics, I think, but definitely paint. And then they, in order to expand the market, they, put it out there as a food substance.
Yes.
There's been a lot of shady, dodgy things done like that.
Oh, yeah. And candles as well. The soy.
Sorry?
Candle. Oh, for soy candles. It's huge over in America.
Yeah.
Soy for candles. Yeah.
Just another way of using a waste product.
Mm.
Right. They just find a market for it. So, and then if soy itself is usually genetically modified to be Roundup ready.
Mm-hmm.
To be sprayed with glyphosate and survive while everything else dies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and glyphosate is deadly. It's carcinogenic and it damages your microbiome. There's an enzyme pathway in your body. There's an enzyme pathway in bacteria and plants called the Shikamate enzyme pathway.
Okay.
And the Shikamate enzyme pathway is required in plants and bacteria to produce the aromatic essential amino acids phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan. If they can't produce those essential amino acids, they basically die. Now, we don't have the Shikamate enzyme pathway in us. Our body doesn't produce those amino acids. However, our microbiome does. So anything that contains glyphosate goes into our microbiome and disrupts our microbiome's ability to produce those aromatic essential amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
And those aromatic amino acids are required to produce serotonin, dopamine, and the catecholamine hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So, which are actually produced, particularly serotonin is actually produced by our gut. 90% of our body's serotonin is produced in our microbiome for our brain and our body. So glyphosate going into our microbiome on foods which have been sprayed with it is disastrous for our microbiome and for our natural well-being, the way we feel, because our serotonin production and our dopamine production and our catecholamine hormone production is curtailed. And that only has negative effects. There's nothing good that comes out of that.
With fermented soy, though, organic fermented soy. So organic, they're not sprayed.
Yep, that's why we go for organic, because we can be sure they're not being sprayed with glyphosate.
But are they genetically modified soy still?
No, you can't have a genetically modified ingredient and label it as organic.
Okay.
That's one of the standards of the organic standard, which industry is doing its best to erode and change. So people have to pay attention and support these standards.
Yeah.
Like I would subscribe to the Organic Consumers Association and support them.
Okay. My daughter, dairy, soy, and gluten have been her huge intolerances. Noticed a big difference when we cut them out. She was malnourished, big tummy. Oh, her behavior was just unbelievable, really unhappy. Happy, but unhappy. And anyway, so when we cut that all out, fantastic. Month went by, doing really well. Year went by. And then I tried organic wheat and organic dairy and organic soy. And it just, after a month, not that I did a lot of it just slowly drips. She just went back because her microbiome isn't, she hasn't rebuilt it yet. She hasn't restored it yet. She still, needs to do that.
Well, there are a lot of, it's not just the poisons they put in our food that we have to worry about. There are other things in those, there are other things in soybeans. There are other things in milk. There are other things in wheat. There's the gluten in wheat. There's the wheat germ agglutinin, which is a lectin in wheat. Yep. There's the various anti-nutrients in soybeans. And then there's casein and lactose and animal hormones and other things in milk products. So I actually don't think that any of those foods are particularly good foods for humans. You know, they're not natural foods for humans. So while we can eat them, and if we don't have other choices, you know, fair enough. But you know, we can certainly do better without them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, that isoflavone in soybeans has been shown to be radioprotective. You know, so again, it's organic and fermented soy.
Yeah.
You know, so in tempeh and miso and that type of thing, which is how the Japanese and, you know, the Asian countries over there, you know, ate it.
Yeah.
There's also something called the Bowman-Burke inhibitor, BBI, which is also in soy, which activates the genes involved in DNA repair and stabilizes enzymes that would otherwise produce radiation-induced arrest of skin cell growth. Enhances survival of healthy cells, not disease cells, and it actually survives processing.
Okay.
Curcumin decreases DNA damage, or curcumin decreases lipid peroxidation in white blood cells. It's an antioxidant. It's gene modifying. It increases cell death in tumors.
Okay.
Garlic is a sulfur, it's an allium, so it increases glutathione. It protects red blood cells and protects chromosomes. Ginger increases glutathione and decreases lipid peroxidation, which is basically oxidation of lipids and harm. Ginkgo biloba decreases damage to the chromosomes. It protects against direct radiation-induced damage. So whether you drink it as a tea, whether you eat it as a herb, or whether you take it as an extract. Ginseng protects radiosensitive tissues such as hair follicles and cells in the bone marrow, the spleen, the gonads, and the white blood cells.
The gonads?
The gonads. So the ovaries in women and the testicles in males.
Yeah.
Yeah. Silymarin. So silymarin is the milk thistle extract, which protects liver cells and is an antioxidant and radioprotective. So we've already mentioned that one.
Yeah.
Big one. N-acetylcysteine. Right, NAC, otherwise known as NAC. N-acetylcysteine. It's a sulfur-containing compound which supports intracellular activities. It's an antioxidant, so it supports intracellular antioxidant systems, particularly glutathione, the production and replenishment of glutathione. It protects against DNA damage, particularly in the liver and the bone marrow. And so it's a lot of those tissues which are quite sensitive to radiation. And if you combine NAC with vitamin E and C, it's particularly effective.
Where do we find NAC?
You buy it as a supplement.
Oh, as a supplement. What?
I think there are NAC rich NAC rich foods as well. Off the top of my head, I don't know what they are.
Okay. All right. So we have a list now of
things to look for.
Yeah. Well, especially like you said right at the start, if you're going to have radiotherapy or if you've been through it, this is the rundown list of what to increase in your diet.
Yeah.
And to have on hand anyway, and for healthy, to build a healthy, strong body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But eat well, minimize poisons, get lots of good sleep, exercise moderately, and have a realistic but positive outlook on life.
Yeah. Cool. This has been great. Thanks, Darren.
Yeah.
Now,
No
just
worries. You're welcome.
to the liver toxicity. Did you want to talk any more about that?
Sure. Garlic. Garlic helps activate liver detoxification enzymes.
Yeah.
Right. Beets, as in beetroot.
Oh, beetroot. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, activates liver enzymes and positively affects the bile. organic apples, or only because organic apples are one of those nasty fruits that tend to be sprayed a lot. So you go for organic. They also contain malic acid, which helps the liver, particularly detox from aluminium.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah, malic acid removes aluminium. Broccoli, because it contains sulforaphanes, sulforaphanes, and a compound called indole-3 carbinol, which helps remove excessive hormonal loads from the body.
Yep.
Then there's ferments, of course. So your sauerkrauts and kimchi and all that type of stuff. Walnuts increase blood flow and increase circulation.
Yep.
They also help to there's arginine in them, which helps to neutralize alcohol and ammonia and their byproducts from the system. And of course, turmeric with its curcumin, vitamin C, alpha-lipoic acid because it's a fat-soluble chelator.
Okay.
And B complex.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are just going for the concentrated curcumin. However, there's other compounds in turmeric. It's not just the curcumin. Curcumin is anti-inflammatory, but there are other compounds in turmeric which is of benefit to the body. So I think you want to go as much as possible for the whole root or the fresh whole root. Because once you powder it and it's been sitting in the shop for a long time, it's starting to oxidize.
Yes. So fresh
but
is
still, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. So cool. So, I mean, I want to hang out with you. I want to come over and hang out at your farm. And I know sometimes you actually do run retreats there or weekend.
We do run retreats. In fact, we've got 6 weeks of courses going at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to let everyone know if they'd like to spend some time out in your world. And
well, one of the things that we're probably looking at doing in the future is a type of retreat centered around health, because at the moment the retreats that we're running is centered around learning how to live off grid. So they're one is learning how to design your property. This is what's going on at the moment. We're in our 2nd week now, where people come and they learn how to design their property to be off grid and self-sustaining. How to set it from the top down. All the factors that you need.
People that are living in the suburbs like myself, I still be quite interested. Not that I would be able to do a grand design, but just enough to know for my own compost and mulching.
Well, of course, absolutely. And it's I mean, the knowledge, it awakens you to the beauty and the intelligence of nature, really, because when you see how nature works, this grand design, how intelligent it is, and how cooperative it is, and that it's not dumb and blind, you start to have a great and newfound respect for it, such that it motivates you to want to change how you live on the planet. So that's the course that's going on at the moment. After that, there's a 2-week, it's a permaculture in action course where people will actually, because the first one's more theory based, whereas the second one is more action based. You get on the ground and you're actually on the farm and you're helping to work the farm and you're working in the various systems. So you're getting hands-on experience, whether it's installing fencing, or whether it's milking cows, or whether it's feeding cows and feeding horses, feeding ducks and chickens, learning how to grow seedlings, planting seedlings out in the garden, how to make compost, how to, understanding watering systems and how to, move water around the property and all those types of things. Food forest, how to plant a food forest, how to maintain a food forest. you know, how to look after your plants, how to nurture your seedlings to production, you know, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, life skills. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Really important.
Yep.
So
Then,
yes, I'll go on.
I was just going to say, then the last course, the last 2 weeks, is Earthworks and water harvesting. So how to design.
Sorry, one moment, Darren. Just one moment. You'll have to explain. Indy, can you move those pillows? Because that background noise, I'm going to have to like try and remove it, and I'd rather you not do it, so it makes it easier for my editing. Move a bit more. We're nearly done, and then we're going straight to bed. All right. So tell me about the last course that you have.
So the Earthworks and water harvesting course is a course that teaches people how to design and then set up for their property for earthworks, and then even direct an earth mover so that they achieve the results that they need. So there are ways of harvesting water. In the end, the most precious resource other than the air that we breathe, which we take for granted, but the next is water. Because without water, you're not going to grow food. So how to capture that resource, how to design your property and direct an earth moving machinery to do that. Yeah.
So if we want to join one of these courses, do we find it through you, or do we go to a particular website to register?
You can come through me, but they're offered through, because the name of the farm, the Permaculture Research Institute of Australia, is it's based at Zaytuna Farm. So that's where I currently am, at Zaytuna Farm.
Yeah,
and so zaytunafarm.com.
I'll put all the details in the description, so I'll put your details there as well, so they can contact you if they have any questions at all. You are always available, I notice, and on your Facebook page, I love that you're there for people like myself that have questions. Thank you.
Yes, although I haven't been very active on Facebook lately. I've been having kind of like a bit of a timeout, but every now and then I'm on there.
Oh, it's good for our soul. It's important to do that. Beautiful. Yeah. Thanks so much for everything. I'm going to really enjoy editing this podcast, and I definitely think that 2 parts are really perfect for it, actually. And Indy's so tired. She's like running on nervous energy at the moment. She's giggling for no reason. But yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on. I hope it turns out okay.
Yeah. I'm just thinking to wrap up the end. Just thinking how we're going to wrap up the end, just so we could say goodbye. Indy, stop laughing because I can hear you. She's so funny. She looks exactly like me, just a very small version. I'm so tired now. I'll just thank you, and we'll just end it like that. But then I'll stop record. But then I just want to say goodbye to you before you go, Darren. Is that okay?
Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Darren, so much for joining me and being there for me, especially at the time of my concern about radiation and my daughter and what's going to happen for her and how to heal her, and keeping me on track. I appreciate it, and all the information for our viewers and listeners too.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure sharing this information with you and your audience.
Excellent. See you, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yummy Mummy podcast is self-funded. If you feel what I do is important and you would like to see more, please consider making a donation. paypal.me/Lisa Jane Hussey.